I would describe or define creativity as acting like your father, as in your heavenly father. He's the ultimate creator. So all you're doing is following in his footsteps as close as you can get. Which is not too close, but hey, you gotta try. I was in an all-black neighborhood from 61 to about 65, something like that. And because of Martin Luther King and the NAACP, and the whole drive was to integrate and to end segregation. So we moved into an all-white neighborhood. You know, we do the hand in Michigan. So there's Upper Peninsula up here, Lower Peninsula, and Muskegon is right about here. From Muskegon Heights to Roosevelt Park, which was a subdivision, I guess, within Norton Shores. And that was lily white. We were the only blacks there for many years. Getting there wasn't easy. We had the KKK threaten the builders of our home. Yes, there was racism in the beginning, but by the time I got to 6th, 7th, 8th grade, all that was done. I'd see it on TV, but it was at a distance. I didn't have that many friends in the younger days, so it was a lot of just cooking stuff up, making stuff up. And so Walt Disney was a huge inspiration on TV, and he'd do his little thing, and Tinkerbell would do her thing. I was reading, Silver Surfer, Thor, all those cats, Bootsy Collins and George Clinton. Because if you ever bought any Parliament Funkadelic albums back in the day, they created all these characters. They created their own world. And you could punch them out of the album and everything. And my cousin Mark, Uncle Henry, my Aunt Dot were on, so to speak, in Muskegon Heights, other side of the tracks. And here I am listening to James Brown, Al Green, and my cousins would bring over the Jackson 5. So I had that culture that never left. But then with my white friends, I'm listening to Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, Bread, or something like that. It's all that soup that I threw in there. And then my mom was a teacher. She's a school teacher. And Dad was always starting some new business because he hated working at the factory. And then, of course, there's Bewitched. Mom and Dad were pressing me on what am I gonna do, and I kept telling them I'm gonna play basketball, I'm gonna play in the NBA. And that's great. They never told me I couldn't do anything. They said, you absolutely can do that, but have a plan B just in case. And they wouldn't let it go, so Darren had a beautiful wife, a big house. He didn't look like he worked that hard. And he'd run downstairs and say something to the client, and then they would buy it. And I said, okay, I'll do that. I'll do advertising. And that'll be cool. The other thing I always knew I could write, that if it had to come to that I could create with the best of them. So anyway, all of those things mixed together. And when the basketball thing didn't work out at Michigan State, I said, well, we're gonna do a little advertising. Maxine Pietro wrote this book called How to Put Your Book Together and Get a Job in Advertising. I read her book cover to cover, backwards and forwards, upside down, and followed all the instructions. And the thing was, she said, try and get into the big agencies. This agency in Warren, Michigan saw my portfolio and loved it. And the internal headhunter called me up. Listen, Jimmy, we got a job opening. Saw your work, think it's great, think that you're the right person for here. And then there's no internet. So they don't know what I look like. I don't know what they look like. All you're hearing is what's on the phone. And my mom being a teacher, so I did what black kids call, I spoke proper. She said I would miss the job opportunity, most likely, if I didn't come tomorrow. I'll be there. What time do you need me? And she said 9 a.m. So me and Smoke, my wife, she drove, I got a little sleep, and we got there and, so she's going through my portfolio. Now things are starting to wrap up. You can tell that, this interview is ending. I guess I better say something. I guess I better say something. Hey, when am I meeting the creative director? And she said, oh no, you aren't meeting the creative director. I just wanted to meet you. Because I'm realizing now what's going down. I said, you could have met me next week. You said I needed to come today because the creative director was leaving town on vacation and there was a job opening. You were concerned that I would miss out on the opportunity. Oh, no, there's no job opening. I just wanted to, what can you do at that point? So that's when I said, uh-oh, this ain't gonna be like what I thought. The next part of the education was who are the Stan Lees, Bootsy Collins, George Clintons, Walt Disney's of advertising. And then my first guy I discovered was Bill Bernbach and David Ogilvy. So I'm reading their books, checking out their advertising that they did back in the day. And I remember sitting up there, Cartoon Saturdays, I like to teach the world, whenever that would pop up. And just combing through all the various award books. I sent my stuff off to some Asian cat, Lee Cloud, Chiat Day. I'm from Muskegon, Michigan, Northern Shores, so I don't know much. And again, there's no internet, so I don't know what he looks like. And I'm on the phone with him, and he's ripping my portfolio apart. He took the time to break it down, what was up with it, and all this kind of stuff. So I said, I'm gonna show him that I can do this and whatever, and he's gonna wanna hire me someday. And then you're seeing all this stuff. 1984, well, who did 1984? We shall prevail. Chiat Day. And then the Nike campaign. Who the fuck are these dudes at Chiat Day? And then finally, in Ad Week, Ad Age, whichever one it was, you see Lee there and you go, oh, that's a white dude. Okay, he's gonna hire me someday. So then I get my first big break at Burrell Advertising. Alma Hopkins looked at my stuff, she dug it, she shows Tom, here's some folks who look like me and have the same aesthetic. Lewis Williams, who was my mentor at Burrell, and he'd always say, if you don't remember anything else I tell you, just remember, it's not rocket science. So I was at Burrell for like a year. Then when I went to Footcone, it was Al Hawkins who hooked me up with a gig. That's the first time I'm working for a Black creative director in a general market environment and how he navigated all of that stuff and the things I learned from that. And then a few years later, here I am at Muse Cordero Chin. Muse is Black, Joe Muse. Mavis Cordero, Mexican, and David Chen, Chinese. So it was the first multicultural ad agency where I can just be who I am. If it comes from Black roots, cool. If it comes from white roots, cool. And knowing my background, I'm gonna put it all together and mix and match anyway.
Smoking-related diseases cause over 50% of all deaths among Blacks. Don't burn your own cross. Quit smoking.
There was everybody under the sun in this little agency. But the thing was, they had a sliver of Nike. Scott Bedbury was huge in that whole process. He understood the need to have somebody from the culture working on his brand. So he puts us together. So I'm working with Joe Muse, and there's Dan Wieden and his team over there. So we presented, and Dan flipped out of it. He loved it. He just kept going on. And Joe's looking this way, talking to some folks, and Dan's looking at me, saying, I'm gonna call you. You're gonna hire me. I'm gonna call you. Cool. So I'm calling for like 2 straight weeks. I'm like, what the fuck? Mary Norman's, he's not in, Jimmy. He's not available. Jimmy is going. So after 2 weeks, I wrote a 5-page letter. And I did everything but curse him out. So I overnighted it to him, and he called me the day that he got it. So I'm thinking, my mom was freaking out. I don't remember that. She's, oh, Lord. She didn't want me to send it. She's going, I said, well, he hasn't hired me. It's not gonna hurt. He hasn't hired me. So what difference does it make? He needs to know how I feel about this. So when he called, he said, we're gonna hire you. He said he never received a letter like that before, and you can write. That was a relief, like, I really can do this. That's my dream agency, Wieden+Kennedy. That's my dream account, Nike. Now I gotta go, like, execute. I was scared shitless. Dan brought on John Jay, who I call Dr. J. So Dr. J and I did this print campaign for NYC City Attack. Book publisher calls and goes, hey, you saw those print ads, you guys should do a coffee table book. John Hewitt was the photographer. And I got my brother, who was a Broadway poet. He rounded up the poets. He and the poets wrote basketball poetry. I wrote about the legends in the book, the Pee Wee Kirklands, the Joe the Destroyer Hammonds, Jumpin' Jackie Jackson, so nice they had to name him twice. And the book, we named it Soul of the Game, and the thing sold out. It's in the Basketball Hall of Fame, it's in museums, and it's an ad. That was what I was kind of in the back of my mind's gonna buy a book of ads. Yes, they will, if done well. Fast forward, Will Moselle, he was a producer, executive producer over at EA Sports. He says, Jimmy, we're putting together this new video game, we want your help on it. And I'm like, oh, you want me to do the ads? He's like, no, we want what you do in those commercials and in those print ads, and we want you to infuse the actual game. We want you to name the characters, create the storyline. We want you to help us create it. Next thing you know, I'm making video games. All that stuff, whether it's Nike Battlegrounds. It was the highest rated show in the history of MTV2. And so all of these things, whether it was the book, whether it's the video game, whether it's the TV show, I'm going, hey, you know, anything can be an ad. It doesn't have to be, nor should it only be, a 30-second spot. I was working with another one of the guys I used to look up to all the time, and that's David Lubars. So David allows me to do my branded entertainment thing for BBDO New York.
Oh, and another one.
You gotta be kidding. Biggie, no!
And so we did like Instant Death with the Black Eyed Peas. So it's like 2008, and David goes, hey, there, it just kind of popped up out of the blue that Shia wants you to go over there and work on Gatorade. And obviously I know Lee is there, and I'm like, holy smokes, that'll be dope. When I tell him I thought he was Asian, he cracks up, you know, anytime he hears that story. But we set the world on fire with G.
What's G? It's the emblem of a warrior. It's the swag of an athlete, a champion and a dynasty. It's gifted, golden, genuine, and glorious. It is a lowercase God. It's the GOAT, Ha! The greatest of all time. What's G? It is the heart, hustle, and soul of the game. That's G.
Lee, he didn't think that they were ready for G yet. He was like, that may be a little too much for them. Maybe, to come out the gate, maybe we should wait, give them 6 months or something and then spring that on them. But my experience on that one was that you need to get everything you can in the beginning. We sold G. We sold Gatorade Replay.
Welcome to the 87th meeting between the State Liners of Phillipsburg and the Red Rovers of Easton.
A 27-yard field goal attempt. It's blocked. The whistle has blown. This one is over. A sister kisser.
Time might be worse than a loss. We think we have a score to settle.
Gatorade has chosen to team up with the towns of Phillipsburg, New Jersey, and Easton.
We're inviting the guys from the 93 team to strap on the helmet and the shoulder pads and replay that game to determine the true champion once and for all.
We sold the Sports and Entertainment Network, not just Gatorade Replay, but a whole bunch of shows are going to be on there. By selling the entertainment platform, you got to put content on it, right? You can't just have a platform and not have any content. And then once it got done, the thing blew up. But anyway, that's what started Amusement Park. That planted the seed for Amusement Park Entertainment. I have to start my own thing where you can start from the ground up without all these crazy contracts where everything that you produce or everything that you show a client, they own. Because it's built on buying and selling media. Most of the agencies, not all of them, but most of them are not built on I'm selling an idea. What we're doing now is controlling that by creating our own products. One of my favorites would have to be Heaven Sent.
Tonight, you're about to witness a once-in-a-lifetime, very special live event. Stride Gum presents Heaven Sent. World-renowned skydiver will jump from 25,000 feet without a parachute.
It took everything that I learned from when I started in the business, before I even started in the business. Like, if you can think it, you can do it. I mean, a man jumped out of a plane with nothing, landed safely.
He's in!
That's straight out of When You Wish Upon a Star, some Walt Disney stuff, right? It was a TV show. It was a pay-per-view event. So we're doing all types of shit like that. That's just tip of the iceberg. And we did the thing with JBL on Martin Luther King Day, and JBL was like, we got Damian Lillard, wondering, you guys could come up with some ideas of what we can do with him. And we were like, well, we make headphones, he creates music, let's do something along those lines.
I see the world from a lens of my own perspective and see the anger driven by color in the recession. Sad to see the reality of our regression. Cops killing, drugs selling in a state of a depression. When I get pulled over, should I be afraid? Cause lately the bad's get in the way. If my attitude bad cause of the day, would it threaten them enough where I maybe could catch a stray? But it's a two-way street, you probably hate to hear. It kinda seem like they striking cause it be out of fear. Aggressive kids getting bullets, then they be out of here. We mourning lately, gon' be some time before we out of tears. No need to separate, remember that these times cooler. We ain't dealing with segregation for all the schoolers. Throwing dirt on the work of Malcolm and Martin Luther. We stand together, let's make it different than what we used to.
I'm happy for the difficulties back in the day, because you had to go through those journeys to get to a place where you got a little wisdom there. Very few people know my wife's real name. I call her Smoke, family calls her Smoke. When I first met her at Michigan State, and after some women introduced us, when she walked up, they said, so what do you think? And I said, she's smoking. Smoke inspires me because I know she loves me for me. Never asked what I was gonna do. I could have been a garbage man or whatever. She was and is the perfect wife for this business, because I told her, we're gonna move around a lot now because you gotta build your career, you gotta hop around a little bit in the beginning and whatever and whatnot. Okay, as long as I'm with you. I mean, you aren't going without me, are you? And I said, nope. And the other way she compliments, she's a numbers person. But she's creating now, so that's pretty dope. So my sons are creators. They direct, they write, they produce, they edit, do apps. They were supposed to try out for the Lakers, but they burned out on basketball and they wanted to come and work at Amusement Park. That's pretty cool. Smoke says, I'm always working. I don't look at it as work. I mean, your creative brain can take anything and turn it into something cool or emotional or funny or whatever. It's just, it's hard to turn that shit off. And I guess when you turn it off, it's time to go home.
Hallelujah! They call me Casper, not the friendly ghost, but the Holy Ghost. Dig, and I'm here to make you shout. Glory be to the one who knows what the funk's about, y'all. Man. Like a rhyme rhythm, only if you can stand the elastic music of my rubber band. I'm gonna hit you with a one. And gonna be the funk's on me. Cause dig, this is Casper here, and I'm calling short distance, baby. I'm gonna hit you with the one on the